Hey, what's up, everybody? And thank you for tuning in to Poetic Expressions. So, as promised, I said I was going to try to get back on a regular pattern of doing these videos. So, thanks for all the love and the views and likes, even the dislikes for the Missy video that I did for her latest project, Iconology, and then the review or reaction, rather, to her MTV VMA Video Vanguard Awards performance. So this week we are talking about Jidenna. Now, before I get into this, Jidenna is, to me, in my opinion, he's one of the best lyricists of our time right now. Of all of the, I would say, the new class of rappers that have emerged within the last 5 years or so. And I think he's really underrated. So 85 to Africa, this is his second studio album. So as soon as I heard about it, I was really ready to jump on this and listen to it and see what it was all about. He's been catching a little bit of heat lately because some people are saying that, oh, he came out, he was the classic man. He wore, wingtip shoes, and he had on suits, and his hair was slicked back and all this. So he had a very polished image when he first came out. Now when you see him, he may have on like a t-shirt and some sweats, and he's grinding on some girl at the club. But when you listen to Jidenna's album 85 to Africa, it's really intelligent, and it really kind of breaks the mold for a lot of the music that we're hearing today, and especially in terms of hip hop. And this album, I'll rewind a little bit. So how it actually started was Jidenna was recording at an Atlanta mansion. He had rented out this mansion. I think they were staying there, him and his team, maybe a few months. They were paying rent for this mansion. Turns out that the landlord wasn't actually paying the rent, or he wasn't actually getting the payments made, or whatever you call it. So they were just paying this money, and the guy was pocketing the money. So they're there getting ready to record, and in steps in these four police officers. Luckily, he didn't go to jail, but he was evicted. And then that turned the whole process for this album, and he decided to travel to Africa to get inspiration to record it. So it's really interesting to see if there were any songs recorded back when he was in Atlanta. I'd be curious to hear those and see how different that was from the album that we have now, which is 85 to Africa. But it's a very good CD. I've only listened to it twice so far. I will say some of the songs aren't quite as catchy immediately as some of the ones on The Chief, like, Classic Man, the Let Out, songs like that really have a little bit more of a pop kind of vibe and feel. These aren't really necessarily radio friendly songs, even though he does have those on here. And the CD makes a bit of a transition. So the first half is, I guess you could say, the 85 part, if you will, more of the Americanized sound. He even takes a shot at Morgan Freeman on this song called Babouche, I think that's how you pronounce it, which features Gold Link, which is another one of my favorite rappers that has emerged within the last 5 years. He's very underrated too. If you haven't checked him out, check out Gold Link's music as well. But he says, I heard Morgan Freeman got a hearing, and then he says, I always knew it was something up with that earring or something. So he kind of takes a jab at him and the Me Too movement. So it's current. He talks about current day things and trends, things that are happening, and kind of his stance on how he feels hip hop is today. And then as it progresses, it gets a little bit more serious. He talks about a specific kind of woman in the song called Zodi, which is one of my favorite tracks. And he's talking about a type of woman who is really just into the zodiac signs, almost like it's a religion, or it replaces her religion. And that song is sampled, it has a sample of the Busta Rhymes song, Put Your Hands Where My Eyes Can See, which actually, he didn't sample it from Busta Rhymes, because Busta Rhymes sampled that from another group whose name is, I had to look at my notes because I'd never heard of these folks, Seals and Crofts, and the name of the song is called Sweet Green Fields. So check out that song. It's really cool how Busta Rhymes turned that song. It's a slower beat. The cadence of it is a lot slower, and the drums aren't as heavy. but you can still hear that like dum dum dum. You can hear that beat in the background. So it's kind of cool how Busta Rhymes took that. I knew he had sampled it from someone, but I had never heard the original song. So when I heard Jidenna's song, I went back and revisited Put Your Hands Where My Eyes Can See, and then also the other group that originally recorded that song. But Jidenna, what makes this album interesting to me, and I feel like it's going to be one of those CDs where every time you listen to it, there's probably going to be something new that you didn't catch the first time, or just something that you like even more about it with each listen. And what makes me really like it is the interviews that I've heard him do recently that coincide with the press releases that he's been doing to hype up the album. And he's a very well-read individual. He has a lot of knowledge about African history, his own heritage, which is interesting because his dad was Nigerian and his mom is white, so he's mixed. He has a different kind of perspective, and he's really open-minded. I was surprised to hear this, but he was talking about how he has a hard time dating now, and he's kind of slow to trust, things like that, as far as getting in a serious relationship. And his stance is he believes that most people are not equipped to have sex with or even love one person for the rest of their lives. And he admitted that he's been part of polyamorous relationships before, and he even kind of encourages it. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And he talked about some other things too, about like homophobia in the African community, meaning years and years back through history and stuff that he's read, and how women's rights. I mean, he just has a lot of knowledge, and it really shines through on the album. But I think the album doesn't even do it justice, because when you hear him in interviews, then you really get to see some of the stuff he knows and what he's talking about. But all in all, I'll say it's a great album. It really breaks up the monotony of what we're hearing today in rap, and he has something different to offer. I would put him kind of in that same class of, maybe like a Common, even a Nas to some extent, even though he's only 2 studio albums in. I think as he progresses, he's going to continue to get, more and more recognition and to get more just deeper with his music than he already has been. So you can catch Jidenna on tour starting next month on October 2nd in California, and the tour runs until mid-November, I believe, and closes out in California. So I'm definitely going to try to catch his show when he comes to Dallas. But make sure you leave your comments, rate, like, subscribe. Let me know what you think about Jidenna's new album, 85 to Africa. Do you think that he's speaking truth on some of the things that he's saying here? Do you think that, is hip-hop really ready at this point for the type of album that he's bringing, where it does have so much knowledge and there's not as much, ass shaking, if you will. I mean, another thing he said, I thought that was really commendable. He was saying that if he has women in his videos, he will tell the director that he doesn't want them to just be sitting there with different poses, like half clothed and everything. He may have them sitting there reading a book or, on the computer or something else, but he wants them to have that interaction and show that in his videos versus just the typical video girl, if you will. So I thought that was pretty cool too. But let me know what you think about it. Oh, and before I close out, y'all see this shirt I'm wearing? Brown Liquor and Cigars. So that is a podcast that I'm a part of. We talk about everything from relationships to divorce to high mileage women. You got to check it out to see what I'm talking about on that. We talk about, racism. You name it. We talk about it. So it's a really, really awesome podcast. So make sure you check that out. Brown Liquor and Cigars on SoundCloud, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, and iTunes. I think I covered them all. But anyway, thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you next week or soon. Yeah, I don't want to just commit myself to next week because y'all might not see me next week. But you will see me soon back on a somewhat regular schedule. Well, thanks for tuning in.